You pull up to the pump, and the first thing you notice is the smell. That thick mix of leaded gasoline and hot asphalt baking under the summer sun. A bell dings when your tires roll over the hose, and a guy in a uniform walks out to meet you. He does not ask what you want. He already knows. That was a gas station in the 1980s. It was not a convenience store. It was not a fast food court with a frozen yogurt machine and 17 flavors of energy drink. It was something else entirely, a place that smelled like motor oil and rubber and possibility, filled with things you could only find between those pumps and that register. Most of them are gone now, wiped off the map so quietly you barely noticed until someone mentions one and the whole memory floods back. So hit subscribe, because here are 25 gas station items from the 1980s you will not find anywhere today. Number 25. Full-service fuel attendants. You did not pump your own gas in the early 1980s. Not at most stations anyway. You sat in the car with the window cracked while a uniformed attendant filled your tank, checked your oil by pulling the dipstick and wiping it on a rag, cleaned your windshield with a squeegee. He pulled from a bucket between the pumps and checked your tire pressure by crouching down with a gauge. All of it, without you lifting a finger or stepping out of the vehicle. He would lean in through the window and ask if you wanted regular or premium, and half the time he would top off your washer fluid just because he felt like it. Some of them remembered your name. By the end of the decade, self-serve islands had taken over almost everywhere, and the full-service attendant became a memory. Today, New Jersey is the only state in the country where pumping your own gas is still against the law. Everywhere else, that attendant is gone for good. Number 24. Cigarette vending machines. They sat right next to the front door or just inside the entryway, big metal boxes with pull knobs arranged in rows, each one labeled with a brand name in bold lettering. Marlboro, Winston, Salem, Camel, Cool. You dropped in your quarters, pulled the handle hard with a downward yank, and a pack slid out the bottom with a satisfying thunk against the metal chute. No ID check, no questions asked, no human interaction required whatsoever. If you were tall enough to reach the knob and had the coins in your pocket, you could buy a pack of cigarettes at age 12 without a single adult saying a word to you. The machines were built like tanks, all sheet metal and chrome trim, and they hummed quietly against the wall day and night. The little window showed you exactly one pack of each brand so you knew what you were choosing. They stayed in gas stations until federal and state regulations caught up with them in the early 1990s, and then they vanished almost overnight, pulled out and hauled away, replaced by absolutely nothing. Number 23. Leaded gasoline at a cheaper price. Every pump offered it. Regular leaded, sometimes labeled ethyl, and the fumes hit you the moment you stepped out of the car. That sweet, almost metallic smell was tetraethyl lead burning off into the atmosphere, and nobody thought twice about breathing it in. Kids stood next to the pump while their parents filled up every weekend, inhaling deeply without a care in the world. The EPA phased it out through the 1980s as catalytic converters became standard on new vehicles, and by the mid-1990s it was gone for good from American roads. But for most of that decade, you could still pull into a station and choose leaded at a lower price than unleaded, and plenty of older cars on the road still demanded it. Number 22. S&H Green Stamps. You filled your tank, and the attendant handed you a strip of little green stamps based on how much you spent. You took them home, licked the backs one by one, and stuck them into collection books page after page. Once you filled enough books, you could trade them in for real household goods from a catalog. Toasters, lamps, luggage, even furniture if you had enough. Your mother probably had an entire drawer dedicated to those stamps and half-filled booklets. The program peaked before the 1980s, but hung on into the early part of the decade at some stations before fading completely. The thrill of earning something extra just for buying gas was a concept that gas stations abandoned once price wars became the only game. Number 21. Glass bottle soda machines. Not a plastic bottle dispenser. Not a modern can vending machine with a digital screen. A big, upright chest-style cooler with glass bottles standing in rows behind a locked metal gate, their caps just visible at the top. You put in your coins, grabbed the neck of the bottle you wanted, and pulled it sideways through a narrow metal guide until it cleared the gate. The bottle was ice cold and wet with condensation, heavier than you expected if you were a kid. You popped the cap off on the bottle opener built right into the side of the machine, that little metal ledge with the slot that caught the cap and sent it clinking into a bin below. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, RC Cola, Orange Crush, knee-high grape, all in those heavy glass bottles that you returned for a deposit next time you came back. The soda tasted different from glass. Colder, sharper, more real somehow. You stood in the shade of the station overhang, leaning against the ice machine, drinking straight from the bottle while your dad talked to the mechanic about a noise the car had been making. That 10-cent bottle of soda on a hot afternoon was one of the best things about a gas station stop. The machines disappeared when bottling companies switched entirely to plastic and aluminum, and with them went that particular satisfaction of hearing the cap pop and feeling the cold glass against your palm. Number 20. The service bay with a full-time mechanic. This is the one that changed gas stations forever. Every station in the 1980s had at least one garage bay with a hydraulic lift, a mechanic in greasy coveralls, and a wall of tools hanging on pegboard. You could get your brakes done, your muffler replaced, your transmission fluid changed, your belts checked, all at the same place you bought your gas. The mechanic knew your car. He knew its sounds, its leaks, its personality. He would tell you what needed fixing now and what could wait another month. And he meant it, because his reputation in the neighborhood depended on honest work. There was no corporate upselling, no checklist of recommended services, no pressure. Just a guy who had been working on engines since he was a teenager telling you the truth about your vehicle. The floor was permanently stained with decades of oil that had soaked into the concrete until it turned black. The radio played from a shelf above the workbench, usually tuned to a talk station or classic rock. And the waiting area, if you could call it that, was a single plastic chair next to a coffee pot that looked like it had not been washed since the Ford administration. By the late 1980s, quick lube chains and dealership service centers started pulling customers away with coupons and air-conditioned waiting rooms. The economics stopped working for independent station mechanics. One by one, those bays closed up, got converted into extra retail space for snacks and drinks, or just sat empty with the door welded shut. Today you drive past those old stations and you can still see the outline where the bay door used to be, the concrete slightly different, the wall patched, but not quite matching. Number 19. Paper road maps given away free. They were stacked in a wire rack near the register, folded into neat rectangles with the state name printed across the front in bold letters. You grabbed one for free, unfolded it across the hood of your car, and tried to figure out which tiny red line would get you where you needed to go. The legend was printed so small you needed good eyes and patience. And the trick was refolding it. Nobody could ever get it back the way it came. You ended up shoving a crumpled mess into your glove compartment next to 6 other maps from 6 other trips that you would never look at again. GPS killed them completely, but for the entire 1980s, those free gas station maps were how America navigated its highways. Number 18. Free air at the tire pump. The air was free. No coins, no card reader, no digital screen telling you to insert payment. You pulled up to the pump on the side of the building, unscrewed your valve cap, pressed the nozzle on, and a little gauge built into the hose told you the pressure. You filled each tire right there without paying a cent. The compressor hummed and the hose hissed, and when you were done, you hung it back on the hook and drove away. Somewhere along the way, stations started locking the air behind coin slots, then card readers, and now you are lucky if the machine even works after you feed it money. Free air was once the most basic thing a gas station offered. Today, it is a luxury. Number 17. Ashtrays bolted to the pump island. Right there on the pump itself, or mounted on the top of the trash can standing between the islands, a little chrome ashtray with a flip top for your cigarette while you waited for your tank to fill. People smoked at the gas pump without a second thought. They smoked in the car with the windows up. They smoked inside the station while paying. They flicked ash into the wind standing 3 feet from an open fuel nozzle. The concept of not lighting up next to gasoline fumes simply had not landed for most Americans in the early 1980s. It was not recklessness, it was normal life. Everybody smoked everywhere, and the gas station was no exception. Those ashtrays quietly vanished as fire safety awareness grew through the decade and stations started posting no smoking signs that people initially ignored. But for years, those little chrome trays sat there, overflowing with butts and ash, bolted permanently to the same concrete island where fuel was actively being pumped into cars. Number 16. Mechanical pump dials with spinning numbers, no digital readout, no LCD screen. The gallons and dollars ticked upward on a pair of spinning number wheels behind a little glass window on the face of the pump. You watched those numbers roll upward like a slot machine, and you could hear the soft clicking as each tenth of a gallon passed through the meter. The attendant would reset the dials to 0 with a hand lever before starting your fill, and those wheels would spin backward in a blur. When you said stop at $10, he had to time it just right. Digital pumps replaced them through the late 1980s, and something oddly satisfying disappeared from the experience of getting gas. Number 15. Restroom keys attached to enormous objects. The restroom was always around back, and you had to ask the cashier for the key. It was attached to something so large you could never accidentally drive away with it. A slab of wood, a section of 2x4, a hubcap, a wrench the size of your forearm. The logic was simple. If the key was attached to something you could not fit in your pocket, you would have to bring it back. You carried this absurd contraption around the side of the building, unlocked a door that barely closed properly, and entered a restroom that told its own stories through the graffiti on the walls. Number 14. The lonely snack rack before convenience stores existed. Now let us talk about the inside of the station. Because in the early 1980s, the interior of a gas station was a different world than what you see today. There were no aisles of food, no refrigerated sections, no hot dog rollers or pizza warmers or frozen drink machines. There was one small wire rack near the register with maybe a dozen options total. Tom's peanuts in cellophane bags, Lance crackers, the orange ones with peanut butter that crumbled the moment you opened the wrapper. A few candy bars that had been sitting in the sun long enough to develop a white film across the chocolate. Slim Jims hanging from a clip strip, their wrappers faded. And sometimes, sitting on the counter in a glass jar full of murky brine, a batch of pickled eggs that nobody seemed to buy but never seemed to run out. That was the entire food offering of an American gas station. One rack, one jar, and whatever the distributor dropped off once a week when he made his rounds. The transformation began in the mid-1980s when oil companies realized there was more profit margin in selling a $2 bag of chips than a gallon of gasoline. Stations started expanding. Coolers went in along the back wall. Fountain drink machines appeared. Microwaves got bolted to counters. Coffee pots multiplied. By the time the 1990s arrived, the gas station had become the convenience store, and that lonely wire rack with its dusty peanuts and stale crackers was so far in the past that a kid born in 1995 would never believe it existed. Number 13. Squeegee buckets that actually worked. Between the pumps, there was always a bucket of blue cleaning solution and a squeegee in a metal holder. In the 1980s, the water was reasonably clean, changed regularly, and the squeegee had a real rubber blade that had not been shredded by years of neglect. You could walk over, dip the sponge side, wipe your windshield down, flip it, and squeegee off the water in 2 clean strokes. You could actually see through your glass afterward. Today, if you can even find a squeegee bucket that has not been stolen or run dry, the water inside looks like something drained from a swamp, and the blade is hanging off in strips. In the 1980s, those things worked because someone whose job it was to care about the station actually maintained them. Number 12. Coin-operated newspaper boxes lined up outside the door. Right outside the entrance, a row of metal boxes bolted to the sidewalk, each painted in the colors of its publication. The local daily in black and white, USA Today in bold blue, sometimes a regional paper or a free Auto Trader magazine at the end of the row. You put in your coins, pulled the front door open against a stiff spring, and took one paper from the stack inside. The honor system kept you from grabbing the whole pile, though nothing physically prevented it. You tucked the paper under your arm, walked back to your car, and read the sports section while your dad finished paying for gas. These newspaper boxes stood at every gas station, every diner, every corner store in America through the entire decade. They were as much a part of the landscape as the pumps themselves. The internet did not kill them all at once. It happened slowly through the 2000s, one empty box at a time, until the ones that remain today sit rusting in parking lots that nobody maintains, their doors hanging open, their coin slots jammed with debris. Number 11. Branded promotional drinking glasses. Fill up your tank a certain number of times during a promotion, and you earned a free drinking glass. Shell, Mobil, Gulf, Texaco, they all ran these campaigns through the 1980s. The glasses came in themed sets, NFL teams, Star Wars characters, patriotic eagles and flags for the bicentennial holdovers, Garfield, Peanuts characters. Your kitchen cabinet probably had an entire shelf of mismatched gas station glasses that your parents accumulated over years of regular fill-ups. They were thick, heavy glass, built to last, and some of them have become genuine collectibles today with people paying real money for complete sets. Number 10. Lead paint peeling off the pump islands. Those bright red, yellow, and blue pump islands were coated in thick lead-based paint that chipped and curled in the sun after a few seasons. Kids sat on those concrete curbs waiting for their parents to finish at the register. They peeled the paint chips off with their fingernails because the curling edges were satisfying to pick at. Nobody said a word about it. Nobody knew to worry. The whole station was painted bold and glossy in brand colors, layer after layer applied over the years until it was an inch thick in places. It was just how gas stations looked, bright and peeling and slowly poisoning the ground beneath them. Number 9. Pay after you pump on the honor system. You pulled up to any open pump, picked up the nozzle, and filled your tank to whatever amount you wanted or until the automatic shutoff clicked. Then you walked inside and told the cashier your pump number. That was it. No prepayment, no credit card slot built into the pump, no holding your license at the counter as collateral, no camera recording your plate in case you ran. The entire system operated on trust between the station and its customers. The cashier sat behind a counter, watched the lot through a window smudged with handprints, noted your pump number on a little pad, and waited for you to walk in and settle up. Drive-offs happened? Sure. People occasionally filled up and sped away without paying. But stations accepted that as a manageable cost of doing business, rather than treating every single customer like a potential thief before they had done anything wrong. It was not until the 1990s and into the 2000s that prepay became the national standard, and the whole trusting ritual of filling first and paying after vanished from American life. Number 8. Metal oil cans with pull-tab tops. Rows and rows of them sat on shelves behind the counter or stacked in a pyramid display near the front window. Quaker State in green and white, Pennzoil in bright yellow, Valvoline in blue, each one a steel can with a triangular pull tab at the top. The attendant would punch a hole in the top with a metal spout, then pour the golden oil straight into your engine right there in the parking lot. Those cans were so common that people used empty ones to hold nails in the garage for decades afterward. When plastic bottles replaced them by the end of the 1980s, a whole tactile ritual disappeared. No more punch, no more pour, no more stacking those satisfying metal cans on a shelf. Number 7. Continuous cloth towel dispensers in the restroom. Mounted on the wall next to the sink, a metal box housing a continuous loop of cloth towel on a spring-loaded roller. You pulled the towel down to find a clean section, dried your hands, and let it retract back up into the housing. The used portion disappeared inside while a fresh section hung ready for the next person. In theory, someone replaced the towel loop when it got too dirty. In practice, you sometimes pulled down a section that had clearly been used by every trucker who stopped there that week. Paper towel dispensers and hot air dryers replaced them for hygiene reasons, but through the 1980s, that rolling cloth towel was a fixture of gas station restrooms from coast to coast. Number 6. Phone booths at the edge of the lot, right next to the air pump or standing on a concrete pad near the road, a glass-paneled phone booth with a folding accordion door you pulled shut behind you for privacy. The inside smelled like cigarettes and warm plastic. You stepped in, dropped your coins into the slot one at a time, listened for the dial tone, and punched in the number from memory because you had no contacts list to scroll through. The phone book dangled from a metal cable underneath the little metal shelf, its yellow pages swollen from rain and torn at the edges by years of use. If you were on a road trip and needed to call ahead to tell someone you were running late, or you broke down on a back road and needed a tow truck, that phone booth at the gas station was your only option. There was no cell phone in your pocket, no way to reach another human being without physically stopping your car, finding a working booth, and feeding it quarters until someone picked up on the other end. That booth was not a convenience or an amenity. It was a genuine necessity of travel. Number 5. The dinging bell hose across the driveway. A rubber hose stretched flat across the driveway entrance, and every time a car rolled over it, the air pressure inside triggered a bell that rang inside the station. That ding was how the attendant knew someone had pulled in without needing to watch the lot. No camera, no motion sensor, no electronic chime. Just a rubber hose full of air connected to a mechanical bell. The sound rang all day long from open to close, one ding for every customer, 2 dings if they pulled all the way to the far pump. Anyone who worked at a station or spent time waiting in one can still hear that sound in their memory. When self-serve took over and attendants disappeared, the bell served no purpose. The hoses cracked and flattened under thousands of tires, and eventually they were pulled up and thrown away. Number 4. Credit card imprint machines. The cashier pulled your card from your hand, laid it face up in a metal tray, placed a 3-part carbon paper slip on top, and slid a heavy handle across the entire thing with a firm ka-chunk. The raised numbers on your card pressed into the carbon paper, leaving an imprint of your account number on all 3 copies. You signed the slip with a ballpoint pen chained to the counter, kept your yellow copy, and that was your receipt. No electronic verification, no phone call to the bank, no PIN number. The machine was pure mechanical force, and it worked whether the power was on or off, whether the phone lines were up or down. Gas stations relied on these until electronic card readers became standard in the early 1990s, and then the imprint machine got shoved in a drawer as a backup that nobody ever needed again. Number 3. Automotive parts hanging on the wall for sale. Behind the counter or mounted on a pegboard near the service bay entrance, actual car parts hung on hooks like they were regular retail merchandise. Fan belts in half a dozen sizes, coiled and hanging from their packaging. Radiator hoses in clear plastic bags, spark plug wires, wiper blade refills sorted by length, fuel filters, air filters, even headlight bulbs in little cardboard boxes. If your fan belt snapped on the highway 20 miles from the nearest town, you limped into the next gas station with your engine screaming, walked up to that pegboard, found the right size belt by matching it against the old one, and the mechanic on duty installed it for you right there in the parking lot while you waited. 20 minutes later, you were back on the road. That combination of retail parts inventory and immediate hands-on mechanical service simply does not exist anymore, except in a scattered handful of rural stations that time and corporate consolidation forgot. A gas station used to solve your car problem completely, on the spot, that same afternoon, no appointment needed. Number 2. Attendant uniforms with name patches and brand logos. Pressed shirt tucked into matching pants, a belt, polished shoes, a name patch stitched above the left breast pocket, sometimes a cap with the brand emblem on the front. These men dressed like professionals because they were treated as professionals. The uniform told you this person was trained, accountable, and proud of the work. Shell green, Texaco red, Sinclair with the green dinosaur. The clothing connected the man to the brand and the brand to a standard of service. When full service disappeared, so did the uniform, and so did the entire idea that pumping gas and checking under your hood was skilled labor worthy of a dress code. Number 1. The whole experience of pulling in and being taken care of. This is not one single item. It is the thing that tied all the others together. You pulled into a gas station in the 1980s and someone greeted you. Someone knew your car. Someone checked things you did not ask them to check because it was just part of the job. You did not stand outside in the rain holding a nozzle. You did not tap through a touchscreen asking if you wanted a car wash or a receipt or a rewards card. You sat in your car, and a person handled everything, and when you drove away, you felt like you had been taken care of. That feeling is what vanished. Not just the items on this list, but the whole idea behind them. A gas station was a place that existed to serve you, not to sell you energy drinks and scratch-off tickets. That entire world is gone, and nothing has replaced it. If any of these took you back to a summer afternoon at the gas station with your parents, drop a comment and tell us which one you remember. What brand was on the sign at your station? What did it smell like? What did the attendant say when you pulled in? And if you know someone who spent years working at one of those old service stations, share this video with them because they will remember every single thing on this list. Hit subscribe to keep these memories alive, and we will see you in the next one.